everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I know there's a lot of excitement around networking. We are all so excited to do presential networking. So thank you so much for being here. My name is Magdalena Coronel, Maggie Coronel. I'm the Chief Investment Officer at IDB Lab, and we have a great panel today. We know how important venture capital is for each one of our ecosystems and the important role that it plays to close the gap in the markets in Latin America and the Caribbean. And we have been hearing all day about Miami. And the question here is, well, how is Miami going to play a role for the venture capital industry and entrepreneurial ecosystems in Latin America and the Caribbean? So we heard from Ignacio Peña this morning, and I have my notes here. I'm quoting, second growing ecosystem, Miami is extremely valuable for Latin America and the Caribbean. Miami diaspora will connect Latin America and the US. And the idea here is to talk with our amazing panelists today so they can share with us the experience, the knowledge that they have been creating in this last couple of years. So I'm having here with me Ana Paula Gonzalez from SoftBank, Pedro Sorrentino from Atman Capital, and Daniel Lloreda from H20 Capital. And I would love each one of you to introduce yourselves. And please tell us, when did you arrive to Miami also?
Very nice to be with you here today. I've been in Miami for 5 years. It was a personal family choice that brought me here, and I was very disappointed the first 3 months I didn't know what I was going to do in Miami. The ecosystem has changed so much. So I was fortunate to join 500 startups, and I launched the office in Miami and then run our global accelerator programs. And then earlier this year, SoftBank, when the city was really started to boom, SoftBank decided to make a commitment to make Miami the city of the future with capital and talent support and many other things, and I was invited to join the team and lead this effort. So I'm very excited to see what has come from Miami. Previous to that, I built a career in Latin America in management consulting in the private equity practice and in impact investing, so even more excited to see what's the role that Miami can play to connect the region with resources in the US. And I was just thinking back to a chat we had on Clubhouse, moderated by Fed and Fed, I see them here in the audience, where we were talking before, last year, what's up in Miami? How is this going to support LATAM? And it's well, I don't really know. We're going to see how this all plays out. And I think it's more and more clear than ever the role that Miami can play for the region. So excited to discuss this today. Thank you.
It was a pleasure to be here. First, thank IDB for the invite. I'm excited to just not be on Zoom. It's great. There's a lot of lights. We don't see all of your beautiful faces, but it's just phenomenal just to be here. This is what the human spirit is about, just meeting offline. So that's great. I've been here for 5 months, not 5 years. After living, I'm Brazilian from Sao Paulo, been in the US for about 12 years, 9 years in San Francisco, and prior to that, 3 years in Boulder, Colorado, when Techstars was starting out. At Atman, we are a cross-border US, LATAM, seed stage, Series A, $50 million fund attached to a family office only for venture-backed founders. My decision to just move to this ecosystem was fueled by, I literally tried 5 different combinations of California during the pandemic after the absolute decline of Western civilization in the city of San Francisco. And there just really wasn't anything that would fit what this new world would look like. And I think Miami truly represents this spirit of this new world that's going to happen once we, learn how to live with this virus. So it's a pleasure to be here. It is a massive and important bridge for the US and LATAM, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Amazing. Super excited to be here as well and see everyone in person. It's been 2 years of a lot of Zoom and remote stuff, so happy to be here and be able to network after with all of you. I'm Daniel Lloreda, originally from Colombia, and I've been living here in Miami for about 5 years. So I came to Miami after graduating from my undergraduate studies in Boston, and I came to Miami to work for a corporate VC fund affiliated to a Fortune 500 company, and then in about May of 2018, we launched H20 Capital when Miami was not a hot tech meme in WhatsApp, and now the city has grown into it, and we're mainly investing in Latin America and some in Miami as well. So excited to be here. We are in our second fund. It's a target $50 million fund, and already actively investing in the region, and looking forward to finding new founders to back and to help.
Thank you, thank you. I think I'm going to start with you, Pedro. You mentioned that you tried different combinations with California. So why Miami? What is present here that is not in other places? Why entrepreneurs should be here, and venture capital funds too?
Well, whenever you think about any other startup ecosystem, I think that many of them they say, oh, Silicon Beach, or before LA had a startup because it was called themselves Silicon Beach, and you have, something Valley or whatever. Miami is just totally comfortable just being Miami. There is also certainly an inflection point that happened during the pandemic where people just had more freedom to just live lives on their own terms. So now you do have that critical mass that's necessary in order to basically put an ecosystem in play. Also, we're not going back, right, to how things were before, and the hybrid model of work and living is better for everyone. So you can also have, remote engineering, which probably is the biggest vulnerability of this ecosystem, but certainly trying to catch up. So in my opinion, based on where we are as a firm, right, so an emerging manager that does US, LATAM, cross-border venture capital investing, the biggest economical arbitrage opportunity in the US is here today. Because for me, I need access to capital and access to deal flow. But it also works because I've had 10 years in the Bay Area, and I've been flying there every 6 weeks or so. So we still have an office there. So you kind of bridge both worlds. So Miami is a possible viable tier 1 ecosystem because of how society functions here in combination with the rules of engagement for our society in this new world. So that's why I'm here. I think it's by far the #1 city to be. And the airport, you're in the middle of the map. It's better than Austin in that sense.
Fantastic. Ana Paula, Daniel?
I'm going to pick up on something that Pedro said that I really like and believe. Miami, it's finding its own identity, which it's really important to highlight. So we're not trying to replicate Bay Area or New York. Miami has very different raw ingredients, and that's in progress. It's work in progress right now with all of this new influx of amazing talent and resources. So I think the future is yet to be crafted in Miami, and we're all shaping it, and we'll see what's the final shape that the city takes. But being in a city where there's so much yet to be done is extremely exciting versus being in a city where everything is said and done and you're just playing catch up. And I'm not going to repeat what Pedro said. All of the advantages that the city offers, quality of life, and more access to very interesting people, either because they're already spending time here or because the remote kind of world has opened the access to that. You don't have to be physically in the room to have a conversation. It's just putting Miami in a very good position for people to come and have the life that they want to have and then be connected with whomever they want. And the geographic positioning cannot be understated. I think there's few cities in the world like this. Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong, although it's going through a difficult point right now, where you have the flights, you have the time zone ease, you have the diversity of talent that's already here and understands all different cultures in language, but in way of doing business as well. So this just grows exponentially as we move forward, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, adding there, I think Miami is a perfect bridge between Latin America and the US. Entrepreneurs coming from Latam, from Colombia and Mexico wanting to raise their seed or Series A rounds initially would go to San Francisco as their first city. Now they're stopping here in Miami before going to San Fran. So it's a perfect meeting point and meeting ground for meeting new entrepreneurs. And it's also a great entry point to doing business in the US. So a great example that we always talk about with with Ana Paula, we have a co-investment in OnTop, and nowadays OnTop has a big component of its revenue coming from the US, and they've been able to do that by having local sales development representatives and local sales office, and we believe that this trend can be brought and replicated with other type of enterprise SaaS businesses, leveraging Miami as that gateway. Second, as Pedro was mentioning, just having a very proximate airport that is 2 hours and a half away from Mexico City and 4 hours away from Bogota and 6 hours away from Lima and being 5 hours away from San Francisco is just so great, and not nonstop flights that make it very convenient, and quality of life is fantastic.
Also, another important thing that I think solidifies things is access to multi-stage perpetual capital, right? And that's very well represented by you guys as well as Founders Fund, right? Like, you just need these multi-stage funds that will continue to back businesses over and over with a primary focus of being based here. So you don't have some of those problems that quote-unquote tier 2 ecosystems might have. So it's like, if you're a Colorado company not backed by Foundry Group, or you're a Seattle company not backed by Madrona, or if you're like, I don't think Miami has that, because it kind of blossomed during the pandemic. People can raise money from elsewhere while also raising money here. That's an important thing, I think, that makes it more real.
Interesting. And touching in the subject of raising money, I'm wondering, Pedro, Daniel, does it make it more attractive for a limited partner to invest in a fund manager with an office in Miami? Is that a differential?
We now have offices in Miami, Bogota, and Mexico, so we see it as a hub model where we're closer to our entrepreneurs by being in Latin America, because we are investing in Latam, but then in Miami, again, talking about that bridge and that gateway, it definitely helps that entrepreneur with relationships with other funds that we're close with. So, for example, Tiger has a few partners now in Miami, and SoftBank is here, and Founders Fund and a few others. So it's just a great way to open doors, and I think it also has a bit of a perception feeling that by having an office here in Miami, you also have good ways to add value locally in the U.S. So I believe our portfolio companies like that, at least for the ones that want to migrate to the U.S. sooner or later.
When it comes to access to LP capital, to answer your question, I think that there is a new group here that is a far more difficult group to connect with, either in California or in Sao Paulo, where most of our capital base comes from, which are just extremely competent billionaire families. And most of the ones that are based here just don't have exposure to tech. The tech is just so inevitable for everyone's portfolio that they're still learning, to a degree, still playing catch up with other asset allocators. So certainly, like, we found a completely different pool of capital that's very interested in taking risk in the asset class that we are in. So for us, it's been really fantastic in that sense. Like, can't complain. I'm very grateful.
That's great. And on the other side, do you think having a presence in Miami makes you more attractive for entrepreneurs? Are entrepreneurs looking for VCs that have a presence in Miami and can open doors in the U.S. market?
I think the LATAM entrepreneurs have always been looking at investors in the U.S. for support, because it's not just money, it's also access to a different level of expertise and growth mindset and other doors for talent, and maybe in markets that it's harder if you're only based in LATAM. But I think for the longest time, the U.S. was not looking at Latin America. So the main hub was the Valley, and they weren't really understanding the region, so they weren't really active. So I think that based in Miami, funds that are here are able to connect the both ecosystems. And for startups, if you get money from a fund like Daniel or like Pedro that can open the doors for both worlds for you, I think it's like the best value proposition for a founder in the region. That said, I don't think you can only exist in Miami if you're doing business in Latin America. You need boots on the ground, and you need to understand how the local dynamics and markets and the whole context works, and founders need and respect that very strong local presence as well. And so it's the same then for founders, and I might be skipping ahead to one of your questions, but it's great to have a foot in Miami for your operation, which allows you to hire maybe BD talent to do more of this cross-border expansion efforts, help you fundraise, help you, I think those are the main things. And then at the same time, you can access talent in Latin America, and your market is mainly in Latin America, or you're building a product there, but you cannot exist only in Miami if you're serving Latin America, because you're totally out of touch with your market.
I also think that founders in LATAM that are interested in U.S. connections don't care that we're based in Miami. It's so much more about, at least in our case, a track record of being in the Bay Area for a decade, having co-invested with, all the top 10, 15 funds, and understanding how to play the game there. Because is a portion of the world that has very specific societal, etiquettes and so forth. Like Silicon Valley is a very specific place. So I don't think that for the ones wanting to come to the U.S., Miami, in that sense of I'll take your money because of the fact that you're in Miami, I am yet to see that association happening. There are two main reasons that I hear from founders in terms of what are the geographical advantages of being in Miami. Not necessarily raising money from a fund in Miami, but one is basically you are a post-Series B founder that has had a secondary event. You know you're going to be successful. You just don't know how much, but you're going to be okay. And then at some point, either for education of your children or for lifestyle, you want to leave Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, Chile, and Miami seems like a good place for cultural acclimation and lifestyle because you can afford it and continue to do business there. So we're starting to see movement like that. That's one thing. The second thing is that if you do sell to Spanish-speaking countries and companies begin to reorganize themselves like we see, for instance, with Square, dedicated hubs based upon themes, like you said, with business development, then yes, then Miami can also be an interesting hub. But I don't think you win a deal by saying, actually that might not be true for a long time already, because founders starting to care less about where you are based and more about what can you do for them, how fast can you move, what's your reputation, what have you done in the past, and so forth, because the market is just moving at such, rapid violence that it's different, I think.
But I do feel if you compare the same VC based in Bay Area or in Miami, my feeling is the partner in Miami will have a better understanding for Latin America because the context that we live in and we're surrounded by in Miami. Do you think that's false?
I think it's on a partner-by-partner basis. I know many people that continue to live in the Bay Area that are massive experts in. I think
You're Brazilian. You're in Bay Area, but you're Brazilian.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You understand the region.
But I think it depends. That in particular, I would say that it's like a case-by-case basis, but a great way to identify true commitment with the region is exactly what you said that you guys have. It's boots on the ground.
This is more for the entrepreneurs in the room and from the perspective of an investor. If an entrepreneur is coming to pitch us and that entrepreneur is just starting a company in the pre-seed or seed stage and wants to move to Miami, for me that would be a red flag. I want to make sure that entrepreneur is in the ground in Colombia or in Mexico, in Brazil, launching the business, making sure the business is working, especially if it's on e-commerce or a marketplace, offline to online type industries. That entrepreneur should be in the ground and executing. And I would see more like the later stage entrepreneur moving to Miami, maybe the co-founders of or more growth type businesses or more later stage businesses where they have a local team in the ground. So I would also be a bit skeptical about why you're moving to Miami and why not being based in Brazil for the first 2-3 years of your business?
Well, a good example, what you said, is a Sebas from Rappi. It's a great example. Like, it's okay. Like, business is so big, and then with everything being remote, it's fine. But at the earliest of stages, yeah, it would be a big red flag.
So what we're talking here is probably it's more optimal to have entrepreneurs moving when they are in Series B, Series C, that they are already consolidated the local markets to start like potentiating the operation from here. Is that correct? How do you see?
I would say, I mean, not to get technical, but Series A, I've seen success cases at Series A as well, when there's already product market fit and there's an expansion into different countries. So at that point, if you're in Mexico and you're growing to Colombia and Brazil and Chile, is there an advantage being based in Mexico if you're traveling all the time versus Miami? It starts becoming comparable.
And what about sectors? Any particular sectors are more interesting or can grow faster here in Miami?
Well, used to be a thing called the American Airlines arena, right? Now it's not anymore. So I would say that crypto certainly, also because of the beautiful tax provisions of the state of Florida, having paid my last bill to California a few months ago, I think make crypto a perfect place here. Like, that's at least the number one industry that we've seen. I don't do much in healthcare. I know that there's a big tradition here. But other than crypto, then everything else that you see are more, just just more regular companies, right? But I think crypto is the only flag that, at least that I've seen in the last 5 months. You guys have been here for 5 years, so.
Healthcare is another big one. There's been a couple of unicorns in the healthcare space in Miami. There's a lot of knowledge, a big knowledge base and talent pool and expertise. So I think that will be a strong one, or is being a strong one as well. Other things that I am starting to see as themes, but as I said, I think it's too early to determine this is what's going to happen in Miami. So we need to stay open-minded. But I'm seeing a lot of cross-border fintech solutions, cross-border e-commerce solutions, and one that it's my aspirational goal, and I think makes a lot of sense for Miami, is climate tech. And I really hope we are able to build out a pool, a lab to test and scale sustainability tech solutions out of here, because we're frontline vulnerable to this challenge, and we have everything to kind of plant the flag and say this is our differentiator. And it's crypto as well, for example, kind of new. It's up for grabs still. Who's going to be the capital of crypto? Who's going to be the capital of climate tech? So I think Miami's a good candidate for that.
And lastly, I think logistics and travel related company, just because of the port and large local companies in the logistics space. So very, very opportunistic.
Fantastic. And in terms of valuation, are you seeing any trends regarding valuations with companies, with LATAM companies that have an office here or are thinking to position in Miami? Does that make a startup more valuable?
It used to be different, and the valuations between Miami or US and LATAM, there was a disparity. Now I think the gap is closing. So that's at least what we've been seeing in the past 12 months, especially if you have very solid founders in Latin America or serial entrepreneurs with previous track record. They'll be able to raise at the same terms as maybe a company in Miami and San Francisco. And you're starting to see these US-based funds investing more and more locally, and I guess bringing those same valuation tendencies to the region.
Yeah, so supply and demand problem where everything is expensive, but the whole thing with Mark Andreessen's software eating the world, we just didn't realize that the world was this big and this hungry, right? I don't think anyone predicted that Coinbase would IPO at 60 billion and DoorDash and Airbnb would have these sizable outcomes. So today, for instance, we have to underwrite it at decacorn level. Like, unicorn is just a stage of a company. It's not really like the outcome anymore, because it's not big enough in order to make fund math work correctly. The issue, though, is that I have friends in the Bay Area that have never traveled to LATAM and have done 6, 7, LATAM deals. It's important for everyone to understand that for every Sequoia LATAM announcement, there are other 50+ funds also now doing LATAM that were not doing LATAM 2-3 years ago. So certainly prices go up. And I am yet to see like the whole entire arbitrage is just going away. People are not considering currency difference and currency fluctuation when pricing these companies. I think that's a dangerous problem. And the second thing is that we're starting to see now, and these are very active discussions at the board level with multiple companies, is that it was really great to have revenue in the US with an office in somewhere in Latam, and you do all the Google perks while you're not being Google. People are super happy, but it's still more affordable. Once talent is remote, you do have churn of employees that can go work for the trillion-dollar companies, make more money, and work less. So now I think that talent arbitrage is almost over. So we'll see what things are going to shape, like what things are going to look like, but a lot of changes.
Phenomenal. Just to wrap up, I think we are almost on time. And I would love to hear some recommendations, either for VC or for entrepreneurs, thinking about coming to Miami, considering opening an office here. So, any advice?
Well, come first and foremost, I would say. It's just, but also come with a plan, right? Like make sure that this is a region that does work for you. You have advantages and disadvantages. It's normal. It's a part of life. I would say that weather-wise, the state itself is extremely business friendly, super safe, clean. This is a well-run city. So, in that sense, I think this is a phenomenal place to build a business and also raise a family as well. I think that this is pretty good. I'm very happy to be here. It's a pleasure.
Just stay focused. Miami can be a playground with many great opportunities and lots of ways to have fun. So just bring that mentality of building and continuing to grow, and don't get distracted by the other facets of the city.
I would add to Pedro's point, experiment first before you make any big investments or any big family moves or something like that, and see if you can find the access to the market or the talent or the resources that you are hoping to find. And then to Daniel's point, be careful also and run reference checks on everybody in Miami, because it's going away, but still. It is some writer, I didn't say this, said Miami is a sunny place for shady people, so just make sure you know who you're talking to.
Not anymore.
And in that regard, do you think an entrepreneur should think about relocating here in the hands, like when they have a partnership, when they have an investor that is based out of Miami and can potentiate the company with the entrepreneur?
Look, we're not private equity investors, right? So in venture, we have influence, not power. And that's usually the best way to partner with founders. So I think it's just a matter of, if it makes sense for the business and the lifestyle of the founder, then absolutely. And I think, between the three of us and all the amazing people that we have in this ecosystem, folks who have open arms to just come and help. That is actually one thing that I very much appreciate about the events that I've been here, is how open folks are and just this desire to collaborate. It is, vibes are lighter than in the Bay Area in that sense. So I think if it makes sense, come, but then if it doesn't as well, that's okay. We're also seeing, a lot of people that are just now splitting time between 2 or 3 different cities, because it's possible now. Like, that's how I've been living my life. I do 6 weeks Miami, 2 weeks in Palo Alto, 6 weeks Miami, 2 weeks Sao Paulo. I don't have family yet.
A lot of traveling.
I can do it because I don't have a family yet, but a lot of people, even with they're doing this. So I think Miami also fits like that type of setup.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much to our panelists. This was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much.